This week's video is on the roses I'd used to start a rose garden in Oregon. My experience in rose gardening in Oregon was in the Willamette Valley, which is a solid zone 8. Um, the first rose on this video is Lady of Shalott. It's a David Austin rose. I really like the color, the copper color-ish. Um, I've only grown it in Missouri, but I believe it would do well in Willamette Valley. I saw it in the Portland test rose garden. Um, and it was doing fine. It's a great rose if you're able to get it. It's worth growing. The next rose is Iceberg. I grew it in Georgia, Oregon, and now Missouri. I did fine in all three gardens. Well worth the rose. I like white. It has to stand out amongst the other colors. I have a lot of pink, but I do like the white because it is different. So I would definitely grow Iceberg if I were starting a new garden in Oregon. The next rose is Old Blush. I grew it in two different gardens in Oregon, um, and it was my first China rose, um, and that introduced me into the repeat blooming roses of the old garden world, old garden, old garden roses world. Um, Worth growing for me. I had not very many problems. Because it is a China, it may be a little tender in some spots, but like I said, I was in the Willamette Valley. It was a solid zone 8. It did fine. Watch where you are though, because there are areas in the Willamette Valley that are a little colder, but definitely worth a rose, worth growing. The next rose is Abraham Darby. It's one of my favorite English roses. I didn't grow it in Oregon, but I did grow it in Georgia and Missouri. Um, it grows well in a public garden in Corvallis, which is in the Willamette Valley. Um, it does fine. It's definitely worth the rose if you can grow it and get it. The next rose is Marianne by Paul Barden, who is in Corvallis. Um, so it was bred in the Willamette Valley. It does great. And I didn't grow it in Oregon, but I would grow it in Oregon if I were there. Um, I love it. It has a nice color. It is a once blooming Gallica rose, but it is worth the once a year show. The next rose is the Ellen Toffelmeyer. Um, it's another rose bred by Paul Barden down in Corvallis. Uh, nice rose to have. Suckers a little bit. It's a once blooming Gallica as well. Worth growing if you are able to get it. The next rose is Treasure Trail again by Paul Barden. It's a miniature moss. It's a great rose. I've only grown it in Missouri, but I'm sure it'll grow well in Oregon, seeing how it's from Oregon. Um, anyway, it repeats a lot. It's a nice rose. It's got the classic uh, scent to the moss. Um, some people describe it as piney. Um, I love this rose. It's awesome. It's great. Worth growing. The next rose is Tuscany Superb, a once blooming Gallica rose. I like the dark purple of it. It's a nice rose. I've only grown it in Missouri, but I'm sure it would grow well in Oregon. Um, I, I got it from Oregon. Um, so it on its roots it does sucker, so do give it space, but worth a rose to have in a new garden. The next rose is Emily Bronte, a David Austin rose. Um, I'm debating on this one. I really like the form. I like the color, especially as it's getting dusk. It pops. Uh, it. I've only grown in Missouri, so I'm not 100% sure what the growth characteristics would be like in Oregon. It is a decent sized plant in Missouri. I mean, it's 5.5 feet tall in Missouri, so I would give it that space in Oregon as well. Um, be aware that it does like to grow long canes. But that's, for me, that's not a problem. That's why I would include it. But like I said, I do like the color. I do like the fact that it pops, especially dusk. Um, so the next rose is Mutabilis. It's a China rose. I love the orange fading to pink to it. I've grown it in Georgia and Oregon. Um, it's a nice rose. It's a great rose. I put it right up there with Old Blush for the China roses. Worth growing. You could, if you're in a suitable area in Oregon, like the Willamette Valley would be Zone 8. I had it grow in the Willamette Valley. It was in the process of getting big when I had to leave it in the move, but it's a great rose, worth growing. Awesome. The next rose is Sirocco House Lavender. Uh, I got this rose from the Sacramento City Cemetery in 2017. I grew it in Oregon. Um, it is a tea rose. According to helpmefind.com, it belongs to the Madame Lombard family. For me in Oregon, uh, it did have a varying color shape depending on the season, the temperature, the moisture level. Um, I could see, based on this rose alone, I could see why identifying tea roses and roses in general would be difficult, because it wasn't uncommon to be looking at that rose and say, "Is that that rose, or is this a different rose, or something like that?" Um, so it's definitely one worth having. Again, it was a found rose that was sold at the Sacramento City Cemetery, so you may not be able to get this one specifically, but with it being the Madame Lombard family of tea roses, that, like, if you're able to get Madame Lombard, that may be similar enough. Um, so if you're able to get the Circle House Lavender from somewhere, worth getting. If not, Madame Lombard, which I have not grown, might be similar enough to be worth growing as well. The next rose is Licorice Tea, a tea rose bred by Paul Barnon in Corvallis. I grew this rose in Oregon. I attempted to grow in Missouri, but I planted it too late, and that didn't work well for the winter. Um, so I would say that it is definitely a rose that needs to grow in something warmer than a Zone 5, 6A, 5B, 6A. Again, I grew it in Oregon in Zone 8. It was raised in Oregon, in the Willamette Valley, which most of the Willamette Valley is a solid 8. That particular place that it was raised might have been a 7B because of where it was located, but that is it's still a great rose. I love the soft yellow in this of this bloom. Uh, it was very vigorous, and it's a great rose. It's a great tea rose, worth growing if you can get it. The next rose is Graham Thomas, a David Austin rose. I love the yellow color of it. Worth growing. I grew it in two different gardens in Oregon, uh, in the Willamette Valley. I didn't have too much problems with it. Um, it's a worthwhile rose to have. It's one of the old, well, not one of, I mean, it's a 1980s Graham Thomas David Austin rose. And so it may be an older one, so it may be a little harder to find, but worth tracking down. This rose is Bathsheba, another David Austin rose. It changes color throughout the season. Um, Sometimes it's more yellow, sometimes it's more apricot-y. That is something I do like about it. Um, it can be a climber, so it's something that you can stick somewhere like that. You can also grow as a shrub. That's what I'm doing here in Missouri. Worthwhile rose to have. I think it would do well in Oregon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching and have a good day.